It was an unusually quiet Friday night. Mom had cooked one of her famous casseroles, the smell of baked cheese and spices filling the small confines of our house. After dinner, we all settled in the living room, lounging in front of the television. Mom was particularly exhausted after a long week at work, her eyelids growing heavier by the minute. She finally yawned and said, "You kids behave yourselves. I'm heading to bed." My older brother, Daniel, shot me a mischievous grin. "Guess it's just us now," he said, leaning back on the couch. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Daniel always had that playful, almost sarcastic tone about him, but tonight, it carried a weight I didn't understand. It was around 11 p.m. when Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and immediately stood up, walking toward the kitchen with a nervous energy. I could hear his muffled voice, low and urgent, though I couldn't make out the words. Curiosity gnawed at me. I tiptoed toward the kitchen, hiding just out of sight. His tone grew sharper. "You know I can't talk long. She's here." She. My stomach churned. Was he talking about Mom? But no, it didn't make sense. Mom was asleep. "I told you I'd take care of it," he hissed. "Just, don't text me again tonight. She might see." I froze, the meaning of his words unclear yet deeply unsettling. Daniel was hiding something, or someone. The next day, I tried to shrug off the uneasy feeling, convincing myself that I had misunderstood the situation. But as the weekend unfolded, Daniel's behavior only became stranger. He was glued to his phone, his face lighting up with unreadable expressions. He'd disappear for hours, returning home with flimsy excuses. By Sunday night, my curiosity had reached its breaking point. While he was in the shower, I took a bold step I never thought I'd take. I unlocked his phone. My heart raced as I scrolled through his messages, and there it was, a thread with someone named Lila. The texts were flirtatious, secretive, and damning. My breath caught when I read, "Last night was risky, but worth it. I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore." The ground beneath me seemed to shift. Daniel, my brother, the one person I thought I could trust implicitly, was having an affair. But the worst part was yet to come. I debated confronting Daniel immediately but decided against it. I needed more information. Over the next few days, I became an investigator, piecing together clues from his behavior and overheard snippets of conversation. What I uncovered shattered me. Lila wasn't just anyone. She was married. And not just married, she was married to our mom's coworker, a man who had been kind and generous to our family on countless occasions. I felt a mix of anger and betrayal. How could Daniel do something so reckless, so selfish? The thought of Mom finding out made my chest tighten. She idolized Daniel, always saying he was the rock of our family. One night, while Mom was out grocery shopping, I decided I couldn't keep quiet any longer. I cornered Daniel in his room, locking the door behind me. "We need to talk," I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. He looked up from his phone, startled. "What's with the drama?" "I know about Lila," I said bluntly. For a moment, his face was a blank canvas. Then, a slow smirk spread across his lips. "So, what's it to you?" I stared at him, dumbfounded. "Are you seriously this unapologetic? She's married, Daniel. And to Mom's friend, no less." He shrugged, leaning back in his chair. "It's not your business, all right? What Lila and I have is complicated." Complicated. I nearly shouted. "Do you have any idea what this would do to Mom if she found out? Or her husband?" Daniel's smirk vanished. "Don't you dare tell Mom," he said, his tone low and threatening. "This is between me and Lila. No one else." I walked out of his room feeling helpless and conflicted. On one hand, I wanted to expose him, to force him to face the consequences of his actions. On the other hand, I couldn't bear the thought of breaking Mom's heart. For weeks, I carried the burden alone, my anger simmering every time I saw Daniel acting as if nothing had happened. But the guilt was eating me alive. I knew I couldn't keep silent forever. It was a quiet evening when everything came to a head. Mom had fallen asleep early, her soft snores echoing through the house. Daniel, thinking he had free rein, decided to invite Lila over. I was in my room when I heard the front door open and a woman's laughter. Soft, familiar. My stomach twisted. I peeked out to see Lila standing in the living room, her hand resting lightly on Daniel's arm. They were so engrossed in each other that they didn't notice me standing there, my fists clenched at my sides. The audacity of it all was too much to bear. Without thinking, I stepped into the room. "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded, my voice loud enough to startle them both. Lila looked at me, her face paling. I should go," she stammered, but Daniel grabbed her arm. "No," he said firmly. "We're not doing this, not tonight." "You're right," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "We're not doing this, ever again. Get out, Lila. And don't come back." Lila hesitated, glancing at Daniel, but I stood my ground. Finally, she grabbed her coat and left, the door slamming shut behind her. Daniel turned to me, his face contorted with rage. "You had no right." "No right," I shot back. "You're destroying lives, Daniel. You think this is some romantic game? It's not. People are going to get hurt. Mom, her husband, everyone." For the first time, he looked genuinely shaken. "I didn't mean for it to get this far," he muttered. "I didn't think." "That's the problem," I said. "You didn't think." The next morning, I made the hardest decision of my life. I sat down with Mom and told her everything. Her face went through a range of emotions: shock, disbelief, and finally, heartbreak. "I need to hear this from Daniel," she said, her voice trembling. When Daniel walked into the room, the confrontation that followed was devastating. Mom's tears, Daniel's attempts at justification, and the raw pain in the air were almost too much to bear. In the weeks that followed, our family struggled to find a new normal. Daniel eventually broke things off with Lila, but the damage was done. Mom's trust in him was shattered, and our once close bond as siblings was irreparably strained. Looking back, I often wonder if I did the right thing. Did my actions save our family, or did they destroy it? All I know is that sometimes, the truth is the heaviest burden of all. Family dynamics are complicated. Everyone sees the picture-perfect moments, the smiles, the shared laughter, the warm hugs, but few realize how deep the cracks can run beneath the surface. My story is one of those hidden cracks that, once exposed, forever altered my perception of family and love. It was an unusually quiet Friday night. Mom had cooked one of her famous casseroles, the smell of baked cheese and spices filling the small confines of our house. After dinner, we all settled in the living room, lounging in front of the television. Mom was particularly exhausted after a long week at work, her eyelids growing heavier by the minute. She finally yawned and said, "You kids behave yourselves. I'm heading to bed." My older brother, Daniel, shot me a mischievous grin. "Guess it's just us now," he said, leaning back on the couch. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Daniel always had that playful, almost sarcastic tone about him, but tonight,